the rough draft original version of this story. It's sort of a combination of this story and issue 0. It's like there's some stuff going on and then a time jump and then the rest of the issue. But we ended up sort of splitting those stories up into the issue 0 and issue 1 and of course expanding, changing, revising them. So this is the original one, the original script, the original, and this was part of my process. I would make rough draft versions of the comics as part of the writing process. And I do them in the style that I did Satan Soldier, which was the comic I had been working on previous to this, and it was sort of a creative breakthrough for me, and so I thought, you know what, this is how I'll do comics going forward. I'll make sort of these quick Satan Soldier versions of them, and then do the finished version, and it'll sort of help me, conceptualize and clarify and things. So, Eyes, Specialty Samurai Sword, Sergeant Hauser, codename Duke. Colonel Hawk, Leader, Specialty, Tomahawk. Scarlet, Specialty, Crossbow. Roadblock, Specialty, Helicopter Gun. You never know which cave is going to be the one with Bin Laden in it. Which, that was the idea. It was sort of like this initial mission would be sort of a period piece taking place in the early 2000s, and then we'd flash forward to the present. But since, like a monthly comic book should exist within the eternal present, we sort of dropped that conceit when we made issue 0. And it's like, issue 0 takes place now. And then when issue 1 came out, issue 1 takes place now. I feel that, that's kind of how, superhero comics should work, which, again, I consider G.I. Joe a superhero comic. And I especially consider G.I. Joe, Transformers versus G.I. Joe a superhero comic. And Transformers is a superhero comic, too. So, take that. Instead, we found a Cobra chemical weapons lab. Thank goodness you are here. Oh, the things they made me do. My eye, my arm, and then Major Blood says you something. I think he says you motherfuckers or something, because again, part of the Satan Soldier thing is you don't hold back, you don't self-censor. So I made these comics, these Satan Soldier versions, as without any thought of can I do that or not do that? They weren't meant for, they were sort of, for my eyes only. But, this, comics, back matter, back matter's been a big part of my life and my career. And here we go. This sort of, this outlaw comic that I made as part of my process for making a legitimate, licensed comic is now in print, by that same company. Dr. Venom, pure evil. Major Blood, terrorist poet. Dr. Venom and his creeper bombs are now property of the United States government. Things got weird. Who knew the enemy had drones this advanced? And then there's Bumblebee speaking in, his Cybertronian language. Ignored my training, ignored my gut. My trigger finger took over. No, Duke, don't. When I woke up, thought for sure it was all a dream, if only. Eyes got you out of there. So he's not Snake Eyes yet. He's just Eyes. He becomes Snake Eyes later. A better man paid the price for my stupidity. Colonel, you're telling me there's not one trace left of that gold-plated, walking, talking enemy drone that can turn into a fucking Volkswagen? The fucking part got, censored out of there. You're asking questions way above your pay grade, Duke. Hawk refused to take my resignation. I ended up making a career for following him into situations as he rose up the ranks. I followed General Hawk to Saturn's moon Titan, where he started an interplanetary war that I was going to have to finish. This is a fucking good comic. They should publish this as its own thing. And then here's the this would be the headline on the newspaper. Not alone. Life on Cybertron. Dancing in the streets following live space telescope video showing moving shapes on the distant world. Scientists are calling this absolute confirmation and incontrovertible proof of, and then here's the president giving a speech. But we need to hope for the best while preparing for the worst. We must assume the inhabitants of the world are hostile. Not because we have any evidence of hostile intention, but because the price of being unprepared for such a possibility would mean nothing less than the extinction of the human race. Are my ears clogged, or did the fucking president of the motherfucking United States just give a worldwide address about the extinction of the human race? Spirit Iron Knife was the first to decipher the message, not too different from his grandfather's language. The Cybertronians are trying to talk to us the best way they know how. They called for a first meeting someplace not too inconvenient for us, not too inconvenient for them, at the Global Space Alliance's new colony on Titan. Who knew Dr. Venom's creeper bombs could be repurposed into terraforming green bombs, making long-term habitable space colonies a reality? So that's what we're on Titan. Thanks to Dr. Venom's creeper bombs and the vegetation that they spew, you can now live sustainably on one of Titan's moons. And so, G.I. Joe team has been part of, sort of an interplanetary colonization. And Spirit Iron Knife, codename Gung Ho, Lady J, specialty, javelin. Some kind of curse is erased out of here. But it's after all the bullshit I've seen, after all the fucking shit I've seen, it's easy to be jaded. But that Cybertronian ship is a thing of beauty, which I agree. I always like that Nemesis ship design. Keep it together, Duke. Try to live up to the name on your belt buckle, Mutt and Junkyard. And you're our diplomat? Maybe you should be in charge of security instead of me. A ragtag bunch, like us Joes. They brought their pets, too. Easy, boy. Junkyard wants to say hello to that space kitty. That's an awfully big ship for just those three. Good point, Jay. Spirit, try scanning that ship every possible frequency. I don't want any surprises for our man Hawk. One step ahead of you, Duke. Should have something soon. Greetings from Megatron. Megatron? We've been calling your world Cybertron. Didn't realize how close we got to your planet's real name. Megatron is not a world. Megatron is our king. So it's a monarchy. We of Earth have no king. I was entrusted with the honor and responsibility to speak on our world's behalf, welcoming you in peace and friendship. Excellent. You offer us peace. And on behalf of Megatron, we accept. No signs of life coming up. Those aren't spacesuits. See, and that was part of the initial concept, is that when they'd first meet, there'd be kind of a similarity. There'd be the G.I. Joes in spacesuits, which would make them look kind of robotic, and then you'd have the Transformers, which the G.I. Joes would assume are just organic aliens in spacesuits. They don't realize at first that they're actually just robots through and through. And the idea of having Soundwave's cassettes be the point men was just kind of got them in like a similar scale. They're still much larger than a human being, but they're closer in scale than the other Transformers. So they were able to have a little more of a conversation. Those aren't spacesuits. My mastery of your language is not quite perfect. There is peace, but there is another word, a more precise word, a better word, surrender. You offer us surrender. Surrender? No, peace is the word. The stacked panels of sort of, wide panels is, a really nice storytelling device. I didn't end up using that exclusively in the comic, but I last bunch of projects that I've done in the past 2 or 3 years, I've used that exclusively. We came here in peace, friendship, and partnership. The more I use your language, the better it feels in my vocal circuits. Surrender is the word. Yes, that feels right. We are here to discuss the terms of your surrender to Megatron. Surrender? Surrender? No warm bodies, but the ship is crawling with ordnance and cybernetic delivery systems. Hell no! If I knew surrender is what you wanted, I would have filled these rockets with plutonium instead of diplomats. Junkyard is growling. Urgh. Cybernetic delivery systems. Killer robots, Gung Ho. Killer robots. And this is Duke's little Luke Skywalker goggles that the toy came with. And it's Duke-O-Vision. Killer robots. Yo, Joe. Evacuate the civilians. Retreat. I did some stuff beyond this, but that's about as far as this got. Like there's some sort of rougher versions. In this one, I never got to the point of coloring. But by this point, the sort of rough ash can Satan soldier version had sort of done served its purpose, where it's like, okay, I was starting to get like a pretty clear picture of how this story, how the scene would unfold. And then, as I would, write and rewrite, it would, get closer to what ultimately becomes the finished version. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, Fantastic Four Grand Design, and Transformers vs. G.I. Joe. See you next time.